This is Thank You Mama, weekly lessons from mothers all around the world. Hello and welcome to Thank You Mama. My name is Anna Titer. My guest today is Eva Feldman. Eva is from Zagreb, Croatia. She is a psychologist and psychoeducational influencer. Eva, I can't wait to learn more about that. And she can be found on Instagram under Too Much Eva. And you will tell me why Too Much Eva. I think nobody can get too much of you, but you'll explain it to us. Hi, welcome.
Hi, hello, Anna. Thank you so much for inviting me to your beautiful podcast with such an important topic and such an important message. I'm so happy to be here and to have this conversation.
Eva, so your Instagram feed is full of very inspiring videos and little essays and photos and quotes. How did you start doing it? And you have quite a following and quite an active following. I'm stalking you. I was stalking you a little bit to see what's going on. And you really have followers that are very active. They watch it, they read it, they comment. You help them improve their lives. How did it all start?
Well, thank you so much for stalking me and being able to tell me these wonderful things. I'm so glad that it shows, that it can be seen and noticed in that way. I started after a really interesting live that I had Instagram live with a friend of mine, Diego, a dancer from Brazil, but he lives here. Hi, Diego, if he listens to this.
Hi, Diego.
He had these lives during the lockdown in the pandemic in 2020, and he invited me. And his questions with Diego and me have a friendship that is very deep. And his questions in that live really sparked something in me and in the people that were watching. They were surrounding self-love and the process of getting to know yourself and, how to help yourself, how to heal certain parts of yourself. And we were really deep into all of these things that maybe we don't talk about out loud in the public so much. And after that live, I've received so many messages of so many people, some who knew me and some who didn't know me. And I just felt this, wind in my wings, how we say in Croatian, to start and to actually do what I wanted. I had been wanting to do for 2 years before that. So that's when, I thought to myself, okay, maybe my words do have a power that could touch someone. Yeah.
So you are, by profession, you are a psychologist, aren't you?
Exactly. I have a master's in psychology.
So what I'm aiming at, or what I'm interested in, is there's so much self-help out there, and everybody nowadays, it feels like everybody has a feeling that they can give advice.
True.
It makes a difference. Or does it make a difference when it comes from somebody who's a trained psychologist? Do you notice that you are coming from a different place as a psychologist?
That's a very good question. I think that it depends on the topics that we talk about. So in moments when I will use some more professional language, when we would talk about abusive relationships, or when I talked about narcissistic personality disorders, or behaviors that would be connected to narcissistic personality disorders, this is, of course, it is important that I am trained in this and that I actually studied this so I can talk about it. However, even though I do love psychology and I think that it's very important to be scientific about certain things, I think that you can also notice on my Instagram that I don't want to be just a psychologist. I'm also there as a human being that deals with her own emotions and her own states, and her own depth. And I try to share my own vulnerabilities and my own anxieties with everyone, so that I can not just to be more relatable in terms of, getting a following or anything like that, but to actually show people that even though we are psychologists, it doesn't mean that we don't have it as hard as anybody else. So I would say that it is important for me that I can, grab a book and understand what that book is about. If it's not some popularized self-help book, if it's like something more scientific. But on the other hand, in order to connect with everyone, I think I connect from a human point, not from a psychologist point, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Do you have a favorite topic? I read the post about the relationship to yourself, and I love that. This is one of my favorite topics in self-help. I think this is the very base for everything else. Do you have a favorite topic you like to talk about?
Yes, for sure. I think that my topic is definitely the relationship to self and how it influences our relationships to others. So I'm very interested in seeing how various states that I go through, how they are connected to the way that I connect to others outside of me, right? So in moments when I'm disconnected from myself, I noticed that I will say attract, but I don't want to go into the woo-woo. Let's say that I attract people who are also disconnected from themselves. And in periods of time when I am most connected to myself and when I'm most authentic to myself, I see myself surrounded with people who are also authentic. And I think that this dynamic is fascinating to me.
I'd love to develop this more in the Thank You Mama workshops, because for now we've been spending a lot of time writing about our mothers and their lessons and what we want to keep and what we don't need. And I've also added, unfortunately it comes very short at the end, but I'd like to develop this more, this notion of mothering yourself, this thing of my relationship with my mother is one thing, but I'm also there for myself, and I can also be my own mother in a certain way.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There is actually a theory called object relations theory by Winnicott and Melanie Klein and some of psychodynamic psychiatrists. I think that they were psychiatrists, that they explain how the way that our mothers treat us, this is the way that we learn to treat ourselves. Exactly. And then consequently the way that we treat others, or in the end our own children. So it's very important, this connection to our mothers and how we connect to ourselves.
Yeah. And to be very aware of it, all of it. To be aware of the mom, but also be aware of what we are doing and what we could be doing or we shouldn't be doing, just to create this awareness of, if I was my own mom, how should I be, towards myself?
Yeah. It takes a lot of, like in this process of healing, it takes a lot of personal responsibility. And sometimes what the wounds that we have, and sometimes they are from our mothers, because they are also human beings and they're imperfect. The wounds are sometimes so difficult that for some people it's very challenging to take responsibility. Yeah. But it is a very, very important part of healing, to develop your own way of mothering yourself, your inner child. Absolutely.
Absolutely. When speaking of mothers, let's talk about Mama Lada. Can
Yes.
you tell me a little bit about her?
What a beautiful segue.
It is.
Mama Lada is my mother. She is a person that is really a proof of mothering yourself. And I should not get too emotional right now, but she really grew up in a not so stable surroundings environment, and she had a very complicated relationship to her own mother. And in turn, she basically, with a lot of self-help books, because she's a professor of literature, so she loves reading, of course. She read a lot of self-help books and actually kind of brought herself out of a pretty difficult state or surrounding, and reinvented what family is, and what nurturing is, and what mothering is. And I think that me and my sister are a product of that and proof of what a great job she did.
This is amazing. I can so relate to this because my mom lost her mom when she was 12. She grew up with stepmothers that weren't there and were really not, and weren't any kind of mother figures. And I find it amazing, as you say, that my mom managed to reinvent motherhood for herself. And she had many flaws. She wasn't perfect, but she was really an amazing mom. So it's beautiful that sometimes you can reinvent it yourself. You don't need to inherit it and learn it directly from your mom.
For sure. And sometimes those things that you do receive, as flawed as they are, they help you see what you want to bring in your own motherhood, right?
Absolutely. Or what you want to avoid and what you want to bring.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So my mom, she's a big role model for me. We could say she is the reason that I think about inner workings and in inner relations the way that I do, because she was the first person who taught me to look behind the scenes. I like to call it the backstage of the conversation, the backstage of an argument. Because and it's very interesting that now I'm using these words, and as I'm using them, I realize how interesting it is, because my mom is also in theater, and she works a lot with theater, and she's a theater critic, and of course teaches about that. So when I say backstage, I can now understand how her work, her career, her science, the science that she's in, made her aware of the backstages of plays, but also backstages of our emotions, our communication, our conversations. And I think that translated into what I'm doing today as well.
And now I have to draw a parallel again, because my mom was a film actress, and she was always teaching me exactly the same thing. She was always trying to teach me to see the bigger picture, to see, as you say, behind the scene, to see the motivation behind something and somebody, to read the person, the room, the situation. She always said, what we visually see, this is just theater, as you you said. And she said, things are actually happening somewhere else, and this is what we need to try to understand and feel, because you can see it. You need to learn how to read it and feel it.
So beautiful. So beautiful. I could talk about this for hours.
I know. we could. But Eva, where I want to go is when we spoke shortly as preparation for our interview, you told me that she told you you don't have to get married and have kids to be a woman.
Oh,
This for me, this I heard from my dad when I was
yeah.
35 or so and still single and a little nervous about it. And my dad and I talked about over lunch, we talked about a friend of mine who had a real crisis about this. And so not directly about me, but basically my dad sat me down and was like, look, who says and why would you need to get married and have a child to have a beautiful and fulfilled life? He's like, look, you're writing your books, you're writing your articles, you have your friends, you have your ballet and things you love. If you manage to nurture this for the rest of your life, this can be enough for a beautiful and fulfilled life. It doesn't mean, look at how many people are married and have children and they're not happy.
Exactly.
And he, in a way, took away some kind of a cramp I wasn't even aware I was carrying inside. And this was just before I flew to New York to my New York City ballet workout training. And then I met Nick.
Of course. This is how it happens.
This is why I want to talk to you about this. Exactly.
This is how it happens.
This societal pressure, these old ideas that we have that came from the outside that are pushed on us of how life should be or how we should be.
And especially pushed on women. Men have their own pressures, but it's a man-made system. So it's a different type of pressure. My mom is a feminist. My mom is a very, very publicly expressed feminist, let's say like that. and she and my dad raised me in a feminist way. I don't know how to say it better, but she always reminded me that marriage and children are not sine qua non to be a woman. They should be a wish and maybe even an urge, a want. If I want to, I need to do what I want, but I don't need to get married. I don't need to have children in order to be a woman. And she would explicitly say it like that. And it was very important for me to learn that a definition of a woman is not necessarily with a baby on her back and cooking, cooking in the kitchen.
And a ring on
and
her
serving.
finger.
Exactly. And serving.
Yeah.
And she also showed that with the way that she treated and still treats her own career. And she was sometimes even criticized. I think she had 2 scholarships right after my sister and me. So both times after my sister and me were born.
How old was she?
She was 26. When she had me, she was 26. And when she had Ruta, she was 31. And my mom and dad are high school sweethearts. So they've by that time, they were together for a long time.
I don't hear that often in Croatia. I hear this story from America, but in Croatia, not so much. So that's cute.
They actually met playing husband and wife
in a
high school play. Yes. So it's a very romantic story what they have, and a lot of also work and love that they put into their marriage. But yeah, so she was young. I mean, 26 to have the first child. But yeah, she went on scholarships like to France and to Italy. There were a lot of comments made by them around that. I don't know like exactly what, but something along the lines of, how can a woman leave her child? And my mom would always say the child has 2 parents and her dad is with her and he's a great dad and he's taking care of her. And that's I think also a very,
Yeah.
it was controversial. Hopefully today it's not as controversial, but an important thing to know and to remember.
I wanted to ask you about that. So it was the dad. It wasn't family grandmothers or nannies. Your dad would take over when she went
Exactly.
off. That's fantastic.
Yes,
Yeah.
we did. I mean, our grandmas did also help and babysat us before we were a bit older to go to kindergarten. But everything else that mom would do, dad would do as well.
What does he do? How did his profession allow that?
My dad is a lawyer, so of course he would work during the day, but everything else, I mean, after work, he would pick us up and spend time with us. Yeah.
Eva, before we go into mom's lessons, tell me a little bit about that cute video you guys did together. It can be found on your Insta. I love it so much.
there's actually two videos.
Yeah, two videos.
I created one, I think it was last summer, about just mom's tips for relationships. And then everyone loved it. And then we just gathered new questions for mom specifically. And then we created the last video with parenting tips and, you know, her thoughts on cheating, infidelity, even. I think that those are interesting topics that maybe, I think that we do talk to our mothers about, but we don't share out loud or in public. And I thought that it was a great moment to show how much we can learn from our mothers and how much wisdom. Well, at least I am lucky and blessed to have a mom who shares her wisdom with me. And I'm so grateful for her.
It made me miss my mom a lot. It made me very sad that I wasn't able to do something like that with my mom. And she was beautiful. Was she okay? Totally okay? Did you have to convince her? Or she's like, yeah, let's do this.
No, my mom is a born performer. Her big dream was to be an actress, actually. But I mean, she couldn't handle, I think, the negative sides. I didn't want to handle, not that she couldn't, but didn't want to. So she didn't go into that. But yes, my mom is very outspoken and she doesn't mind the camera lights.
Eva, but now we have another beautiful segue. Look at this. Now we started talking about mom's lessons. So now I have to ask you about the most important things you feel you've learned from her.
Well, I will start with one that is very practical, but in a way it's also very spiritual. And that is when I was having panic attacks, and sometimes I still do, anxiety or panic attacks, and I would fall unconscious, let's say, a lot of times, actually in my earlier teenage years.
So you would faint. They were so strong that you would faint.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Of course, it was always a combination of, I don't know, low blood pressure or, my periods, and it's just the body adjusting to that. But it was panic. And my mom had a lot of experience with that because she actually suffered from claustrophobia. So the first lesson was to just allow the panic to overwhelm me and to not fight it. And it's such a profound lesson. But basically, she explained to me that every next wave of panic is weaker than the one before. So I should never be afraid of allowing it to happen, right? She would tell me, just let it overwhelm your whole body. Don't fight it, because as you fight it, the feeling gets stronger. But if you let it, it will calm down. I mean, this can be taken into every difficult emotion, not just panic or anxiety. It's just like to not fight your emotions and to allow your body to send you the messages that it needs to send you. It's like, okay, I'm afraid now. and I can trust myself that I will survive. I don't need to fight it. And that lesson really, really changed my life, just in a very practical way, as I said, because I stopped fainting. I would just lean back and would just watch it unfold.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a huge lesson. I was dealing with a little version of that, not with panic, but grief. Now, I just returned from Zagreb, you know, that I was there for a few days. It was a very spontaneous trip because I had to go to a funeral, but then I have a bunch of my mom's things that are still in Zagreb that I had to bring back. So I went through the rest of her things that are still in Zagreb, and it was very difficult for me again. And I was fighting with, why am I feeling so strange? You know, like everything is okay. Why am I feeling this? And it really surprised me that it took me a while to realize I'm grieving. It's okay.
Exactly.
I'm in grief. I miss my mom. I'm in Zagreb. It reminds me of her. It's okay. We have, I don't know if all of us, but I had this need to be like, you know, what's wrong with me? Why am I being so silly? Everything's good. Why am I feeling so strange? And I really had to sit there and be like, I'm sad. I miss her. And that's okay. Let's recognize that and accept that. And as you say, then it went away, you know, then that helps it to do its thing and go away.
What I see in my clients, the people that I work with, is that this rejection of how they feel, but it's almost subconscious, right? Like this
it's subconscious
feeling that we need to be strong and we need to, you know, muscle through. And actually emotions are here to tell us something. And exactly what you did, what happened is you heard the message. I'm sad and I miss my mom, and that's okay. And this gentleness in the way that we treat ourselves. Like, yes, I will be gentle with myself, because from the moment that your mom passed until the last day, you will be grieving, because that is it's an ongoing thing, because you will always be without, right? So it is so beautiful that you were able to allow yourself that.
We have so much work. Like you said somewhere, it's a continuous work. It's not like I've done this and I'm done.
For sure. For everyone. It is a continuous work. It's just a practice.
Let's go back to Mama Lada's lessons.
Yes. The second one would be regarding backstage. She told me, you know, just because someone throws you a ball doesn't mean you need to catch it. And she was teaching me to take a step back from rash reactions, impulsive words that would come out of my mouth. As we were growing up, we meet people who maybe trigger us, who want to, you know, push our buttons and start up arguments because of their own frustrations. Doesn't need to mean that we did something wrong, but I would get so caught up in proving that I didn't do something, or that I did do, or that I'm right, or you know, just all of these things. And my mom would say, you know, just because someone threw you a ball called, you know, starting an argument, doesn't mean that you need to catch the ball and continue the argument.
That's a great one. I love that one.
Yeah. So this lesson was also to, you know, to count to 10. My mom would say, count to 10 and then see if your comment is still so important, or, you know, the question is still ongoing in your mind. And I think that those two things are connected in one, you know, just because there's an opportunity to say something, or you're now very agitated and you need to speak, doesn't mean that you should. And to take some time to see, okay, do I want to go into this? Or maybe it's not my circus, it's not for me, maybe. This one was more difficult than the panic one,
Oh
let me tell you.
God, I just wanted to say I still have to learn this, and I'm so aware of it. And partially, maybe it's our Croatian mentality. We are very impulsive and emotional people.
Sure.
Oh God, and it
Yes.
creates so much unnecessary turmoil sometimes.
Yes.
I still have to remind myself of this continuously, and sometimes it works and sometimes not.
Same
sometimes
same here.
sometimes I count to 10 and then I explode at 2.
Same here. Same here. It's the same struggle all these years. I can elaborate on it so beautifully, but
I know,
it's
me
not,
too.
doesn't mean that I do it. Yeah. And the last one that I've prepared for today is one that has to do with relationships and intimate relationships. My mom would tell me, when someone tells you they're not good for you or that they're not good enough for you, believe them and leave. And it sounds harsh, even when I say it like that. It sounds harsh, but there is a very delicate point behind it. The way that my mom would explain it to me would be, if someone thinks that they're not good enough, they will either not even try because, if it's a fact that they're not good or good enough, then why bother? Or second, they will suck you into their insecurities. And you don't want to be with someone who needs to be proven time and time again that you love them, that you're there for them, that it doesn't matter of, all the insecurities that you're going to stick by. That doesn't mean that people shouldn't have insecurities. Everybody has insecurities. But I think that her message was and is, and I still go by that, is to find someone who feels like they do deserve you. And that person will always be able to express if something bothers them. They will be able to work things out with you because they will know that in the end they do belong here with you. They were not, they didn't fall from a parachute in a strange place and then you were there and you were pretty, so they stayed with you. But they actually know that they worked their way into this relationship with you, and they do deserve to be there. Yeah, I think that a lot of the time love is shown as something that conquers everything and that overrides insecurities, and that when you love someone, then you heal their wounds. And it was a lot of times in my life and in my early intimate relationships, it was a lot of the times used as a manipulation tactic, and made me feel like, because I love someone, I need to put up with a lot of abusive situations. In the end, it doesn't need to be physically abusive, but emotionally abusive. And so this was, I think, the most important lesson. And now, today, after a lot of big, important relationships, I'm actually in a relationship with someone that I feel like they would never, ever say that they're not good enough for me. That even sometimes to the point of annoying me, they do know, and they do feel like, yeah, I am a great person and you are a great person, and we that's why we should be together.
That is so interesting and so very specific, because it's specific to a relationship where somebody lets you know that this is how they feel. Because sometimes I think it takes you even many years to realize that this is what's going on.
Sure. Sometimes we don't have the luxury. But I had a lot of experiences where this sentence would come up, and it would be, I would perceive it as, oh, they're so honest and vulnerable with me, and
And
they
they think
share
I'm
that they're
so
not good for
amazing.
me.
Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And that this is another lesson, maybe like a 3.2, that my mom would say: beware of men who put you on a pedestal. Because when someone puts you high above, like a angel, saint, perfect, Madonna, right? They will drop you very fast, and very low, as the moment that you make a mistake. And when you're on a pedestal, it's as if you're not allowed to be human and make mistakes. So
But
she taught me to walk away from those,
but
which is difficult when you have an ego, right?
it is. It is. It is. But also sometimes from my experience and seeing relationships around me, that kind of relationship ends up with the man doing everything to boycott her
Yeah,
position on a pedestal. They will be
yeah,
they will choose this woman because she sits on her own pedestal, and he sees that, and then he will do everything to bring her down to his level, to
yeah.
take her off the pedestal.
Because it's a
Yeah.
constant tension, right? Like, I want to have this person that is
Exactly.
so better than me, but then when
Exactly.
I'm close to them, I feel so less than, that I need to bring them down. Yeah,
Exactly.
I agree.
Exactly.
I agree.
Very, very dangerous trap. I always cry. Do you know
Yes.
Maleficent?
Yes.
You know the scene where he cuts her wings off? That's what it is for me. And that,
Mm,
every time I see this scene, my heart breaks into
mm,
gajillions of pieces, and I
yeah.
cry.
I there is a song by Sting that my mom would always, we would listen to Sting in the car, as we would drive to, I don't know, skiing vacation or something like that. And my mom would always turn to me, and the song says, "When you love someone, set them
Yeah,
free."
yeah, yeah.
And she would always turn to me and she would tell me, "This is love." So yes, not cutting your wings, but allowing you to spread your wings. Yeah.
Eva, I think we would need a 3-hour podcast and not 30 minutes.
It seems so.
Yeah. We just tickled the surface of
Yes. But
mom's
I'm
wisdom.
enjoying myself so much.
Yeah, me too. But I want to. Do you have more lessons you'd like to share at this
No, no.
point?
These are all.
These are all for now. Maybe we'll do a second episode.
Perfect.
I want to ask you about something that was important. If there is anything that's important that you feel she didn't teach you, that you had to learn by yourself.
Well, maybe two things. When you sent me the question, I thought about, I think that I had to teach myself to allow sadness. And it's not that mom didn't allow me sadness, but because of her own childhood and the way that she wanted to recreate, I mean, the way that she wanted to create a new version, a new story for us, she, I think, was a bit afraid of just being with uncomfortable emotions. So, in just like subconsciously, I think that I learned to be happy all the time, be content, be vibrant, be energetic. So I needed to learn how to love myself, even when I'm lazy, even when I'm sad, even when I'm neutral, even when I'm low energy. That was a big thing. And this obviously I did in therapy, and I think that everybody deserves therapy and everybody should go to
I do
therapy.
too.
And yeah, I mean, when I say that she didn't teach me that, I would say that it's also just a normal journey of a young adult to kind of get these things for ourselves, because we cannot get everything that we need from anyone, and also, of course, not from our mothers. And the second thing I would say would have to do with healing arguments with our intimate partners. And I think that it was not on purpose that she didn't teach me that. It's just that maybe just the nature of reconnecting after a conflict is just so intimate and private, but I never got to witness it with mom and dad. So I noticed in my own relationships that I didn't know how to, let me now use this word, but I am using it very carefully, didn't know how to bring out the feminine part in order to reconnect and to heal a conflict. So I needed to learn that on my own. Yes.
Oh, this is very important for us parents.
Yes.
I'm just, as you're speaking, I'm thinking about it, and I do not know if we are showing this to Kai or not. I can't, I have to talk to Nick about this. Do we reconnect in front of Kai? Does he hear this process or not? I'm very happy you brought this up because it's so important.
I'm so glad.
What we teach our children.
I mean, when I spoke to mom about it, because I did talk to her after I realized that, she just said, oh, I mean, of course, but this is something that we do, you know, privately before going to sleep, and we talk and we exchange physical intimacy and hugs and all of that. And I do understand that it is private and it's not necessarily something that we needed to be a part of as kids. But yeah, it was an important thing that I didn't see, that we don't, I was very much stuck in the logical, argumentative, you know, who's right, who's wrong in a lot of the conflicts in my previous relationships, that because I felt like it would be weakness to show just emotion and to show just touch and to show just, you know, I apologize. Maybe that I didn't see as much. So I needed to learn it on my own.
But also what we've learned and unlearned and learned again, and we have to practice more in our couples therapy, was to make arguments constructive, to find a constructive element to them, you know, to find a constructive way out of them, to not just have this huge fight and then be like, oh, I love you, everything's okay. And that's exactly what I think we need to then show our children, how, yes, we all get angry and misunderstand each other and have these conflicts, but how do we bring them to a constructive level where we are like, okay,
exactly,
what do we do now? How do we find a constructive way out of here?
Exactly. And about conflict, I just saw a video the other day. I think it was a couples therapist, and she said, conflict, it will never be resolved.
Yeah.
We will always be in a sort of conflict because you are you and I am me. And we will never be one person with the same brain and same emotions and same reactions. So it's not about necessarily getting rid of conflict. It's about managing it, learning to manage it. Like, how will I manage myself around these flaws that you have? Because you will have flaws that we will not be able to resolve, and I will have flaws that I will not be able to resolve. How do we manage that? How do we bring a constructive solution to it, and not just, okay, it doesn't matter, I love you, and we forget about it. Yeah. Oh, so many important topics.
So many important topics.
I'm so inspired now, Anna.
I know,
Thank you so much.
Me too. And I really feel like we could talk forever, like for many more hours.
Yes.
Before we finish, let's do a little recap and remind the listeners what we learned from Mama Lada. So we were talking about when somebody throws your ball, you don't need to catch it. We talked about not reacting, but acting. Counting till 10 if you can, and then seeing what next. Not allowing other people to involve you in a conflict.
Mm-hmm.
Then we spoke about when somebody tells you you're not good enough, they're not good enough for you, believe them.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote down so many things. I have so many notes. I have to see what. Oh, and to be aware if somebody puts you on a pedestal, that's never healthy.
Yes.
You spoke about panic and panic attacks and how she taught you to allow every panic attack to just overwhelm you, to sit with it and wait, and that every next one will be weaker, and that really worked for you. But then you also extended this to other feelings. We spoke about how important it is to just allow our feelings, recognize them and allow them, and just work with them.
Let them tell you their message.
Yes, because as you said, and I wrote this down, if you fight them, they will be stronger.
Yes.
I also wrote down to look behind the scenes. We talked about trying to see a bigger picture of in a situation and trying to recognize what is really going on.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about how you do not need to get married and have children if you want to be a woman. It's not what defines a woman. I think I have it. I think these are the biggest things that I wrote down.
Yeah.
And then as something you wish she taught you. It's interesting, exactly to allow sadness or uncomfortable emotions to happen and to allow them to be.
Mm-hmm. And express them.
Healing arguments. You wish she showed you, she and your dad showed you how they heal arguments, how you can get out of an argument. What's the healing part of a conflict? Yes. Oh, is there more you'd like to?
Oh no! When I'm listening to you recapping, I'm just thinking about just how much my mom gave me, and also she gave me in not giving, right? Like just and these things that she didn't teach me, she also gave me a space to learn.
Yeah, and grow and be your own person.
Yeah, I'm so happy now.
Yes, me too, Eva. Let's repeat so the listeners can find you on Instagram under Too Much Eva. I'm going to put a link. I'll put a link in episode notes. They'll find you and your beautiful videos and conversations there. But also, as we mentioned, I think you mentioned you do one-on-one coaching and work.
I do. I'm currently not taking new clients because I'm full, but they can, everyone who wants, they can find information on my Instagram and sign up to the newsletter because usually all the information goes through that.
Fantastic. Eva, thank you again. I'm so glad we connected.
So me too. Thank you so much, Anna, for this invite and this conversation. It brought so much to me and to my day and week and month.
It did, and I'm sure it will to my listeners as well.
I'm so glad. Yeah. I will be happy to hear their comments.
Me too.
Yes.
If you enjoy Thank You Mama and want to help it grow, please take the 2 seconds to leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps. If you'd like to get in touch, you can send me a mail at info@thankyouMama.net. You can also find me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter under Anna Teider. That's TAJDER. This was Thank You Mama. Come back next week, subscribe, and tell your friends.